All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nathan Klug, managing partner of Praxis Agency Consulting Group, and I want to thank everyone for being on the webinar today. And this is the last training, agent training before the end of the year. This is our agent-facing webinar series. We do this every other week, so we'll have another one in 2 weeks' time, and we'll be the same place. Different link actually, but same time, same bat channel. With that said, it's an honor to have Phil actually on the webinar with us. We've had Phil on before, but as you guys all got the title for the this webinar, how to have a tax diversification conversation, this is going to be an extremely important webinar for everyone to understand the idea of how to have this conversation, especially with things that are coming in the pipeline from different rules and laws and regulations that are going to be changing. And this is going to become more and more pertinent for more clients. So it's nice to have Phil Resch from AIG Partners Group on the call with us. Before I pass it off to Phil, though, just a couple things of housekeeping. Number one, just to see audience participation real quick. Raise of hands. If you guys can raise your hands, just say hi real quick to make sure that everything's working. We do love that everyone participates. We got a few people raising their hands. Okay, now we've got a bunch of people raising hands. Thank you so much. We've got a couple people that have not raised their hands, but that's okay. With that said, the Q&A bar at the bottom of the screen, you should see a Q&A section. If you have any questions as Phil is going through the information, then please put them in the Q&A bar. We will make sure that we have time at the end or address them during the conversation. And other than that, everyone's muted for right now. We may have time later that we can unmute people if there's further questions, but it is an honor and a privilege to have everyone here. And I'm going to pass it off to Phil. Phil is, like I said, has been on before, and I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder, Phil, and warn everyone. But he calls himself, this is not a title, I don't think that's been given to him necessarily, but he calls himself the monotone magic. So if you can, everyone, make sure that you stay awake for Phil, that'd be great. He has awesome information, full of wisdom. But sometimes his voice, as you'll notice very soon, as we call him the monotone magic. But without any further ado, Phil, I'm going to give the floor to you. We'll interact as we go along, but I really appreciate you jumping on, and it's always a privilege to have you on here.
All right, thanks so much, Nathan, and appreciate the opportunity. And as he alluded to, yes, I have coined myself the monotone magic. So if that can spread around the industry, that'd be great. You know, I feel like George Costanza when he tried to make his own nickname up with the Yankees. But in any event, as you'll see, all my contact information is up here. So I'm always willing to help. That is my direct cell. You can text, you can call, you can email me at philip.resch@AIG. It's Philip with 1L.resch@AIG.com. Supporting me are my two internal wholesalers, Jason Price and Alex Voloshin. We work as a unified team, so if you don't feel like talking to me, I got two great internal wholesalers to help out as well, and that is their direct work line and email address as well. So I figured, you know, it's the end of the year, always a good opportune time to really talk about sales ideas. Matter of fact, this is probably my favorite sales idea to talk about. Because of the idea that, you know, it's not really the products that we sell, it's the stories that we tell that help get the sale across the finish line. So if you deliver the message appropriately, you'll have the opportunity to show them any illustration, and it should resonate with them. And I think that's the big thing that we always want to overemphasize. It's really, again, the stories that you tell, not really the products that you sell, that will get this sale going. So, you know, today what we're going to talk about is the sales idea first, I'm going to marry in a little bit of product on the back end just to say why AIG, and then give you some updates on some things that we have, things that are coming down the pike. And ultimately, if you sell more with us, the more you can actually make as a producer as well. So, without further ado, let's kind of allude as to why having this tax diversification conversation makes sense in the first place. So when we think about life insurance in general, a lot of people don't really like talking about life insurance. Who really wants to resonate about death and taxes? It's not really a fun conversation to have. So when we think about what we're trying to sell and we think about the idea of positioning life insurance, there's an idea that we should really focus that on retirement protection as opposed to just death and taxes. Matter of fact, 64% of Americans actually worry more about outliving their money than they actually do dying. So if you think about that and you think about the type of clientele you're looking to get, and you're focusing on their concerns and actually providing a solution, that's where you see the retirement protection make a lot of sense. So just going to show you here some numbers. These numbers actually all do equal the 218,400, but really the question is what do the numbers on the left mean to equate to the 218,400 on the right? And so if we think about it, we have two people or a couple, say they're 65 years old, have 3 meals a day. Okay, so $5 per meal at 7 days a week for 52 weeks for 20 years. So what you're seeing here is an average amount of money that a retired couple will spend on food during their retirement years, total of about $220,000. And so I don't know about you guys, but I'm what you call well insulated or fat if you want to be mean. And so I don't really see myself using $5 for a meal. So when you talk to clients about this and you show them this type of equation, they're probably gonna say, well, I spend more like $10 a meal or whatever it may be. And so all of a sudden you already got the hook because people realize that they're already gonna spend more. Well, what does their savings look like? And so when we think about that, again, why focusing on retirement makes so much sense is if you look in the top left-hand corner, you'll see that men average about 17 years after retirement, and women last another 3 years to 20. So typical retirement age. So when we think about that, I always like to ask the question, and obviously we're not here in front of you today, but why do men only last 17 years and women last 20? So it's a fair question to ask. What I like to say is, men, we do the honorable thing and we die first. So we're gentlemen all the way to the end. We allow you ladies to have 3 extra years without hearing us, and so you're welcome. Or for us men, we just want to, go and enjoy some eternal rest quicker. So either or, but in any event, focusing now on the bottom middle where it says 401k, 3/4 of Americans between 55 and 64 have less than 30,000 socked away for retirement. So that's a big concern. Now, the conversation we're having today is for people who are younger than that, but understanding the fundamentals behind it, how we can prevent future generations that may have this type of situation. We want to prevent that. So just understanding where we are currently in regards to our retirement savings. And then in the top right-hand corner, I think is very important. We talk about 60% of retirees actually retire sooner than they expected due to some type of health concern. So if you think about that, you have a 50-50 shot of making it to the retirement you deserve rather than the one you were given due to some type of health concerns. So I think it's very important to understand as we go through our working years, what are we doing to protect ourselves and our assets during that time frame as well. Sticking with the health side for a little bit, understanding that at the back end, when we talk about clients outliving their assets, there are some major concerns in regards to healthcare. for example's sake, you see that big 92% number. 92% of older adults are going to have at least one chronic illness disease, and at least 77% have two. And so when we think about that, it's almost certain that we're going to have some type of chronic illness concern, unless you're the lucky 8%. But when we look at how much that's going to actually cost you, that's going to cost you about $260,000. That's for a retired couple, again, 65 years old, that they're going to spend on healthcare during their retirement years. So if we go back and we look at what we've already talked about, we have clients who have to have at least $220,000 for food. They also have $260,000 for healthcare concerns. That's $500,000, and we haven't even talked about general bills like gas, electric, heat, and then we talk about, I don't know, having fun during our golden years. That's the whole point, right? Is to enjoy our retirement years. So how can we do that? How can we have a conversation with people so they don't have to worry so much about these type of concerns? Well, we talk about a tax diversification conversation. So the idea of the tax diversification conversation really is just kind of narrowing down where you can put your assets for retirement. And there's really three buckets that you can do that in. So you think about the tax now, the tax later, or the tax never buckets. And if you're doing this with a client, you can actually make little buckets if you want to just make it kind of pretty. But you think about the tax now, and a lot of people like these assets because they can drive income. You think about the Susie Ormans of the world, or the Dave Ramseys who say you got to put all your money in mutual funds. Well, that's in this bucket where you're going to pay taxes every single year. A lot of people don't like doing that. They don't like paying taxes every single year on the growth. They would rather kick the can on that, and that's why you see about 95% of assets in these tax later vehicles. So you have 401ks, 403bs, traditional IRAs, that's in that tax later vehicle. And then you think about the third bucket that a lot of people don't really talk about, but it's extremely advantageous to help a client retire more appropriately, and that's the tax never bucket. So we think about Roth IRAs or cash value based life insurance. So if we compare those assets together, we see that there are differences and similarities between a lot of them. Taxable assets, you don't have that contribution limit like you would with a 401k or an IRA. And there's no penalties for early withdrawals because you're paying taxes for it every single year. And of course, along with that, there's no RMDs. But again, a lot of people are trying to kick the can on taxes. They don't want to pay taxes now. They'd rather pay later. So you see, again, a lot of assets are in the 401k IRA bucket. Now, I'll be honest, I turned 40 last week. And so I've been in the workforce for, about 23 years or so, something like that, 24 years. And when I think about it, when I first got in the industry, when I first got into the workforce, I started a 401k, not because I thought I needed to, but because my dad told me to. I had no rhyme or reason as to why I got a 401k. But if you think back, say like the 50s, 60s, 70s, ultimately the 80s, as we progress, there was a concern. So the concern being the marginal tax brackets were increasing up anywhere from 70 to 90%. So top marginal tax brackets were anywhere up from 70 to 90%. So there was a lot of people who loved the idea of taking that tax deduction now, or that tax deductible contribution, and deferring taxes later for when you're retired. You don't have to worry about it because your bracket is lower, because you're pulling out less, or making less, I should say. And so the whole idea of that was fantastic. Now, if we think about where we are today and where the tax position is, understanding that in our current office or our current environment, there's a target on the back of high income earners. And so what we're finding is that you'll see that the marginal tax brackets more than likely will increase. I mean, it has to in order for things like Social Security to continue. And you also have things like, the situation where like we really are in a different scenario where we were back in the 70s and 80s because our top marginal tax bracket is currently around 40%. So when we think about that and we think about the situation at hand, do you think taxes are going to go up or down? As we talk about this, most people, actually all people that I know, say taxes have to go up. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And then if we think about it, if we're putting all of our assets into a bucket today at the lowest marginal tax bracket, and then we're taking money out later when taxes are higher, then the whole idea of the tax deductible contribution is actually reversed. The idea was to help us save on taxes, but eventually we're going to actually pay more in taxes because of the rise of what we'll see later. I mean, you can just see the things like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all part in a major part of the budget for the U.S. economy. And then we're doling out trillions of dollars to people during COVID timeframe, which is much warranted and much needed to help our economy. However, at some point, we're going to have to pay the piper. So again, just overemphasizing the fact that marginal tax brackets can and will increase is very evident. So how can we as professionals help our clients, integrate or have a more tax diversified portfolio? That's where we talk about the Roth IRAs and or cash value life insurance. So that third leg, that third opportunity we talk about is tax never money. So the Roth IRA is always the first one people default to. It's the one people know the most. Actually less in fees compared to life insurance, so I'll be completely honest there. But when you think about it, what it gives you is that tax deferred growth. There's no penalty for early withdrawals. Excuse me, there is a penalty. I misappropriated my dot there. There is tax redistribution, so as long as the gains are in there for, I believe it's 5 years, then you pay no gains on it because it's a Roth IRA. And it will not increase Social Security taxation or Medicare premiums. So again, it's after-tax money. The concern is that, again, you do have those penalties for early withdrawals, so it is designed as a retirement vehicle. And the other one is that you have a limit that you can put into these policies or these accounts. So if I make a certain amount of money, I can't put anything into these Roth IRAs as well. So right now at 40, I can put a total of $6,000 into a Roth per year. And if I start to make too much, then all of a sudden I can't put anything into that Roth that I opened, or I can't open up a new Roth account in general because I make too much. So what we see here is a little bit of discrimination for those who actually make too much. They can't enjoy the retirement they want to because they can't save like Johnny Everyman can in that scenario. So when you think about it, that's where that cash value life insurance makes a lot of sense. So there are no set limit on contributions. If you make north of $200,000, $300,000, whatever, you can still invest in this tax never vehicle because there are no limit on contributions. It is tax deferred growth. It's also tax-free income. If you have someone who's just crushing it in their 20s and 30s and they want to retire early, say at 50, this can be that bridge between that and their invested assets and their 401ks. So there's no RMDs either, and so on and so forth. And you have a tax-free death benefit that can protect you during your working years. So if I put $6,000 into a Roth IRA and died tomorrow, my wife gets $6,000, give or take the growth. With the cash value life insurance, if I put $6,000 in today and I die tomorrow, my wife will still get the retirement she deserves rather than the one I just gave her being the breadwinner of the household. And so how do we have this conversation with people? How do we talk about it in simple terms? We talk about our 5, 10, 20 story, contribution, accumulation, distribution. So if we think about it, you write down 5, 10, and 20 on a piece of paper, or a Zoom call, or over the phone. You tell the client to write this down, and you say to them, this is a normal retirement strategy where you're going to put in $5. Over time, it'll accumulate to 10, and then during the distribution phase, you'll take out a total of $20. So you can add zeros if you want, Mr. and Mrs. Client, but we're just going to keep it very simple. And I've got some good news and I've got some bad news for you. The good news is, or the bad news is, you have to pay taxes on one of these three. However, the good news is you get to choose. So at that point, you tell the client to circle which one they want to pay taxes on. And I think we can all agree that we want to pay taxes on the 5. So then the next question really is kind of the setup to get them to think about this. Where are the bulk of your retirement assets currently invested? So, well, I got 401ks, I've got an IRA, this or that. And so then you ask them a simple question: so out of these 3 numbers, which one is going to actually get taxed then? Where the client will suddenly have that aha moment where all of a sudden it's not the 5, it's not the 10, it's the 20. And so when you ask them the follow-up question, where you say something as simple as, wouldn't it make sense to diversify a portion of your portfolio? All of a sudden the client is already thinking, yeah, I got to do something here. And so the value proposition comes in where you say, if you had access to a retirement strategy, it provides you with the tax treatment that you want, and you could put in as much as you want. How much would you put into a plan like that every year? So if you look at the words, if you look at the way it's set up, there's nothing in there that says buy a life insurance policy. It's talking about a retirement strategy. Now, the vehicle for the retirement strategy is life insurance, but it is a retirement strategy nonetheless. And when you say how much do you want to put into a plan like that every year, we're talking about the premium, what they want to put in as premium. And so on top of that, you have additional benefits in this type of plan, this retirement plan, like self-completing at owner's death. So your spouse can still enjoy the retirement they deserve rather than the one you just gave them. There's no set limit on contributions, so this works really well with small business owners. Pre-age 59.5 access, as I mentioned before, and you can catch up on missed contributions. So if you have a 401k and you put in the $19,000 that you can put in per year, and let's say you missed that $19,000 because you had to reinvest in your business, can you catch up next year and put in a total of $38,000? And we all know the answer is no. Well, you can do that with these type of plans. You can catch up on missed contributions. No RMDs, and you have upside market performance without downside market risk. So if you think about your clients who might be very risky, say they buy a lot of real estate, if they buy a lot of Bitcoin or mutual funds, this can be the alternative. Like when you think of a total plan, you talk to financial advisors, say anywhere from 70-30 stock bond portfolio, 60-40. This could be your bond alternative. So this is a great opportunity to give you strong growth with protected downside risk that you don't get from real estate or mutual funds or Bitcoins or things like that. So we look at a case study. We look at Mr. Tony Lee. He's 40 years old, good health, preferred plus. I'm jealous. Annual income of $400,000. Now I'm really jealous. And he's looking to plan to retire at 67 for full Social Security benefits. Now they want to target about 10% of your W-2 income. That's a fact. You should have, for a fighting chance of retirement, you should at least put away 10% of your W-2 income. So 40,000, we're going to put 18,000 into the 401k. And then after that, you have about 22,000 to play with. So if we go through the case, we do a life insurance policy, minimum funded with max accumulation opportunity, kind of like in the name QOL, max accumulator. You have the opportunity to have it increase during the working years and then levelize it during the distribution years. And I'm going to use a 6% rate of return. There's a lot of companies out there that are doing higher than 6. As a matter of fact, we show 6.2%. But I like to temper the expectation, under promise and over deliver. So I like 6%. And then, just the basics, we're going to pay 67, then take income out for 25 years. And you'll notice Mr. Tony Lee put in 594,000. Policy is increased to 1.3 million in accumulation, and then over the distribution phase, he's pulling out over $3 million of tax-free income, again at a 6% rate of return. So the question always bodes, is Mr. Tony Lee happy he paid taxes on the 594 or the 3 million? And really, when we think about it, the tax value or the diversification you can get comes from life insurance. You can't really do this type of savings with a Roth even. And so when we think about target audiences, you think about the top echelon is always doctors, dentists, attorneys, and CPAs. Matter of fact, CPAs can be a great center of influence because they usually do taxes for doctors, dentists, and attorneys. Then you also have chiropractors, veterinarians, funeral home directors, successful business owners. You think of like hotel owners or, convenience stores, things like that. Then you also have high income executives. And then last but not least, at-home spouses. So some people are always like, well, why would you do at-home spouses? Well, if you think about it, you have one breadwinner, right? And I'm going to use myself as an example. I am the breadwinner of the family. I bring home the bacon, quote unquote, but my wife has a much harder job taking care of my 2 sons. And she doesn't get paid for it. But what we did is, we talk about 401k, say, hey, guess what? 401k is up to this. It's our 401k. To the quick reply is, it's not our 401k, it's your 401k. So, to create a better dynamic at home, what we did was we got her the tax diversification conversation. We did a minimum face, max accumulation IUL, and now I have the tax later assets. She has the tax never assets, and together we have a more balanced portfolio. Now that's the story, that's the sales idea. To kind of marry in with it, I'm going to do some quick hits on our product and what we use for this design. First off, being with the group that you're with, you have 2 sides of AIG. The best side, the side that I support, quality of life, or it has QOL, gives you accelerated benefit riders. Now, inside all your products, you get all these ABRs. It's chronic, critical, terminal, to basically cover you against all your concerns during your working years or even beyond. So you think about the ideas I mentioned in the beginning. You have about a coin flip, 50-50 shot roughly of making it to the retirement you think you're going to make it to, and the other half you don't make it to because you have some type of issue, whether it be chronic, critical, or terminal. So you can accelerate your living benefits for your death benefit up to $2 million or 100% of the death benefit for all 3, chronic, critical, or terminal. We don't limit or change based on the specific chronic, critical, or terminal. So the big thing here, because there's a lot on this page, I'll highlight is its indemnity benefit. So the second to last bullet, there's no receipts needed. You can use it however you want. You can have the neighborhood kid mow your lawn. You could have a licensed practitioner take care of you. You could take the money to Vegas, put on black, and let it ride for all we care. It's your money. Also, no underwriting restrictions. So best risk class or worst risk class, if you get approved with AIG, you're getting all our living benefits. Chronic illness definition, 2 out of 6 ADLs. One of the cool things is we also have no permanency. So you can get better. You get hit by a bus, break both your arms, both your legs, we can still give you this chronic illness definition because no permanency is required as long as you can't perform 2 out of 6 ADLs. Now, again, I bought this policy because of this very reason, critical illness. I fear things being a well-insulated individual like stroke, heart attack, or coronary artery bypass. You think invasive cancers, blood cancers are on there as well as many other fun things to talk about. But when you think about the things that really kick us out of the workforce, heart attack, stroke, cancer, and we have all of those protected in this critical illness definition. Terminal is terminal. Every carrier, every policy has terminal. It just always sounds better in threes, so chronic, critical, terminal. This one has up to 24 months of date of diagnosis, so the doctor deems you're going to pass away in 24 months. You have this terminal illness rider to basically help you out. Unless you're in Florida, then it's only 12 months. That's a Florida thing, not an AIG thing. This is really how we stack up against a lot of our competition in the open market. I'll highlight just a few names, and this is not to pick on them. This is just to say, again, different strokes for different folks. I'll highlight really the critical illness piece, because when you think about critical illness, when you think about these accumulation type sales, you think about that funding period and the distribution period. Everybody loves looking at the distribution period, but that's half the story. The other half is actually getting to that distribution phase. And to do so, you need to fund for maybe 10, 15, 20 years. So a lot of people like looking at the end number, but if you can't make it there due to heart attack, stroke, cancer, well, guess what? We have a cash payout we can give you up to $2 million. Our competitors, like Allianz, doesn't have a rider. So again, if you have a heart attack, stroke, or cancer and can't work anymore, we're going to give you something. They can't. Same thing with, I'll point out North American, the highest they'll go on their UL products is $50,000. So do you want someone who can give you a full benefit or nothing or a little bit of something? That's where we have a good story to tell, holistically speaking, about this retirement solution. And again, it's on all risk classes. We don't stop at a certain risk class. Any risk class that you get, if you get approved, you get our living benefits. Now, talk just real briefly about the product that we looked at to talk about that solution, our QOL Max Accumulator. Just got a facelift with the automated underwriting process. So as of now, you can get non-med opportunity up to age 59. So it increased up to from 50 to 59. And we increased our face amount up to $2 million. So it was $1 million up to about a month ago, and we just added that in. And so if you like to fill out the Part B, you like to ask those fun questions like, hey, Mr. Client, do you like to take heroin? You can do that up to $1 million. You can do that again. We took that away. It is back. You can do the tele-interview for $1 million or less if you want to. But if your face amount increases over $1 million, you have to do the tele-interview. We will accept standard all the way up to preferred best. It's not an accelerated pricing. It's normal pricing as if you did full underwriting as well. We go behind the scene and we look at motor vehicle, MIB, and RX prescriptions, and then we can deem whether or not you get an offer. Just last week, I had a client who did the phone interview and within 7 minutes got issued preferred plus $2 million policy. So it is possible. The only thing I ask is when you talk to your clients, make sure they don't lie, because we will find out. And if we do, you're going to get kicked to traditional underwriting, blood and urine. So this is updated. This is our new automated underwriting portfolio. People always ask about term. Term is still fully underwritten until February 22nd of next year. That's when we have slotted tentatively to go automated underwriting for term up to $1 million. So more to come. Good news is I can label that and assure that that's actually the case. We have the pencil in date of February 22nd to add term to the automated approach. So more to come with that. We have 3 different indices that I like and one that we have on the books that I wish we didn't have. So as you can see, I'm very honest. A lot of carriers will kind of put you in the number 1 or 2 indices that make their illustrations sing. I'm kind of the opposite. I would rather show you indices that will give you a better balance than ones that will look better on a piece of paper. So MLSB PIMCO. Those are two proprietary indices with AIG. And then the high cap, I like those three. High cap's at 10%. NLSB actually upgraded to 115. I just have a really old slide, so I apologize. And PIMCO is 80%. Now, I like those three. You know, if you do a third, or 33, 33, 34, it gives you a nice balance. And the reason why I like that is MLSB is a mixture between the S&P 500 and the 10-year Treasury. So if you think about the idea of, like, for me, I don't like planes. I hate planes, but I fly them to go places for work. But, you know, in essence, the reason why I don't like it is turbulence. A lot of ups and downs, and the volatility just drives me nuts. So I usually tighten up my seatbelt as tight as I can, lock down the arm, and just look out the window and start praying a lot. Well, this MLSB is kind of like that smoother ride. So it reduces the volatility by marrying in some of the Merrill Lynch 10-year Treasury. And so last year, this had a 10.5% return. It did really well. This year, it's not doing as well. So it ranges between 1% to 4%. You know, I look at it daily. So that's why I say, if you add in a little bit of flavor, some little risk, like PIMCO actually has international and emerging markets, which are both international, small, mid, and large cap. And then on the right-hand side, you have that balanced approach with mortgage-backed securities, investment-grade corporates, and treasuries. So when we think about it, I did actually add the slide just on the later part. When you think about it, the idea is volatility protection. So we want the idea, how can we well balance our portfolio so it will hit appropriately? And that's why, again, I think a third makes a lot of sense. I think the high bonus is worthless. But if you illustrated 100% MLSB, or you did a third, 100% MLSB is going to look better on a piece of paper. But I'm always a big proponent to say that illustrations only prove one thing. It's that ink sticks to paper. And so that's why I like the balanced approach here, because I've seen statements. I've seen statements that had just 100% MLSB this year, and people were not happy. And I've seen it with PIMCO and S&P, and people have been very happy with a 9-10% return. So overall, between the three, you know, weighted together. This is just kind of a chart to show during up years, MLSB doesn't do as well as PIMCO. Down years, MLSB does a lot better than PIMCO, and the S&P just kind of trucks along. So we got cool riders. I'm going to kind of skip over those today and just kind of talk about this bonus and leaders development conference. It is, I would say at this point, too late to qualify for the bonus. However, we are going to do the same bonus next year. So it's never too late to start. So January 1st to December 31st, we do a contest, so to speak, or a bonus. So the more you sell with us, the more you make. As you can see, if you sell in excess of $30,000, everything above that $30,000, you will get a 20% bonus paid out at the end of January of next year. So if you look at the scale below, I did 30,000 or less, I'm going to get no bonus. That's kind of like your ticket to Bonusville. So once you get over 30,000, let's say I did 60,000 with AIG, then I will get a $6,000 bonus. So that's 60,000 minus out the first 30,000 for the ticket to get in, and then 20% of 30,000 is 6,000. So I like the 100,000 net weighted premium. Why? Because not only do you get a $14,000 check, but those of you who did qualify this year are on your way to a BC location, and we're talking about the 2022 Leaders Development Conference. So if you hit $100,000 with us in 2021, you and a guest will be flying to the Kimpton Seafire Resort and Spa in the Grand Cayman Islands from June 9th to the 12th. And if you hit 150,000, you'd stay a couple extra days. So great opportunity. We're going to do another one next year. So don't worry if you missed this one. We're going to do another type of resort type of thing. And I was just on the one in Arizona. They treat you very well. Doesn't matter that this one's in the Grand Caymans. I've heard rave reviews about Utah. I've heard of South Carolina. So we do a lot of good stuff to make sure you guys are well taken care of. Now, the last thing I'll say is this. at the end of the day, all of this is great. Bonuses are cool, product stuff, automated underwriting, and the whole story about tax diversification with tax-free income. But at the end of the day, you want a carrier that's been around for a while, one that has got some solid track record and is there to keep up with the promises for your clients when they need you most. And so for us, last year alone, we paid out over 1.8 billion. I'll say roughly 2 billion because this was the end of November of 2020 in death claims. It doesn't matter where you die. We paid death claims out. I helped get a death claim paid out this year to someone who died in India when they were taking care of their parents who got COVID. The parents turned out fine. The 43-year-old male ended up contracting COVID, hit cardiac arrest, and passed away. We paid the claim even in India. So that's a huge deal. 1.8 billion when people need us most. And then 2020, we had 35.8 million living benefit claims. So that chronic critical terminal protection, again, we're here when you need us most. And so that being said, we talked about a lot of things today. The tax diversification conversation, why it's so important, the vehicles that got you there. If you choose to use AIG as your value proposition, you also have bonusing opportunities backed by one of the biggest insurers in the world. So with that, I'll put all my information back up on screen and leave time for Q&A. So with that, Nathan, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Phil. I love when you talk about it. I've seen you talk before about the tax diversification conversation. Excuse me, goodness gracious, that's a mouthful. But very important. And well, like I said, you and I can talk and fill in some space for a couple minutes. But it is. Let me just put it out there. Does anyone have any questions for Phil about AIG Partners Group, about the presentation, about the tax diversification conversation? What does that look like for anybody if you want any more clarification? And then I know we'll have a couple bullet points before we end off here, and go from there. But the last thing that I will say is, just from my perspective, AIG Partners Group has been one of my favorite carriers over the past years. They are always in the kind of the platinum carrier concept, and I talk about them a lot. And it's a very easy value proposition of their products, their portfolio. And I will say this, Phil, just talking about full transparency, the service has gotten better over the years. There was definitely a time frame that from the corporate standpoint, it was a little rough with underwriting and then service afterwards, but they have improved over the years. And I'm glad that they've been catching up on the accelerated underwriting as well with a lot of the other carriers.
Real quick with that too, I'll just share with you as well. One other thing too is we're improving the customer experience, as you mentioned. We are also building our own portal for the clients so they don't have to call us for every little thing or whip out a fax machine, whatever those are. So we are improving with that too. So more to come next year. You'll see a new well-balanced design for the client portal too.
That's awesome. Well, looking forward to that as well. But this is an extremely important conversation to have. And I love the 5, 10, 20 concept. That's a good napkin presentation. Phil, really quick, because I know there's a bunch of resources as well. Where would they be able to find that outside of this presentation? Where would they be able to find that 5, 10, 20 concept?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what's the great thing about our site here is we have everything all in one space. So if I were to just simply go AIG.com/QOL, you don't have to do any logins or anything. It'll just ask you if you're a financial professional. So you say yes. And then if you go to products right here, accumulation IUL, then you go to sales concepts, 5, 10, 20 flyer, napkin tool, and many other sales concepts available. If you want to learn more just about that product overview, I just stole some slides from that. So we have it all readily available here. Once again, it's just aig.com/QOL, and it'll bring you to this open password-free site.
It was definitely a setup because I knew you'd go to this site, but I love this site. There's so much content on it and information, and it doesn't need a login. There is everything that you can possibly need about AIG plus more, just sales concepts, ideas, product stuff, training. This is an amazing site to be able to use. And I think from what I've seen out in the carriers, AIG probably has the most content that you can get access to without a writing number than any other carrier that I know of. So
yes, they actually won awards for some of the content we have on the site too. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not seeing any other questions right now. Then just kind of going over next steps. If this is not a carrier that you don't, goodness gracious, double negatives. If you do not have this carrier in your portfolio right now, then get back with the agency or business development advisor that you're working with. This will be a great carrier to add to your portfolio. Lots of content, lots of support. You have everyone that you have on here, you guys have direct access to. So Phil, Jason, and Alex, they are great resources to be able to use to point you in the right directions and give you some recommendations. And we'll do more stuff with AIG coming up in 2022 as well, because again, there's a lot more other conversations that they can have, but that tax diversification conversation, especially using some of the content that you've already seen on here, is a great tool to use. If for the agency owners that are on here, or the other affiliate marketing offices as well, I would take something like this and, especially the 5, 10, 20 concept, and share that with your team, because Phil, close your ears for this. Regardless of whether you're going to use AIG or not, that's a great sales presentation to be able to talk about. But we're excited to have them on. Next steps is contracting. If you have any other questions, you can contact Phil and his team directly, or talk with your business development advisor. But without any further ado, if there's nothing else, then we'll wrap up. And then, as always, everyone will get an email before the end of the day with the recording and any other content and information that we'll share with you. So, Phil, anything else on your end before we wrap up?
Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to 2022, and we'll definitely have you on again in the new year, probably first quarter sometime.
You got it.
Phil, thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful rest of the day. And as Phil said, a happy New Year's, and we will see you all later. Have a great day.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.